Today we'll be covering how to play Kryptik TCG. To win a game of Kryptik, you must destroy all of your opponent's 11-year cards, and then hit them one more time. Now let's find out how. To start a game of Kryptik, each player shuffles their decks, places 6 cards face down in their 11-year row, and draws 6 cards. Each player may then take any number of cards from their hand and place them in any order on the bottom of their deck, and draw that many cards to recur their hand. Players then use a mutually agreed on method to decide who goes first. Each turn of Kryptik has multiple phases, with sub-phases inside those phases, all of which will be covered in this video. Let's get started. Disengage. Disengage all citizen and soul cards unless an ability or effect specifically says not to. Draw. You automatically draw 1 card from your deck per turn, the only exception being that the player who goes first in a 1v1 game does not draw in their first turn. First phase. During your first phase, you may play any cards you have the soul energy to cast. You may also place a card in your soul row, which can provide soul energy to cast your other cards. You may only place 1 card in your soul row per turn. Here is a visual on how soul energy works in Kryptik. Solid colors and the soul cost of a card must be paid for with that color, and multicolored can be paid for with either. Single colored stones in a card's soul box can only produce that color, while multicolored can produce either. The combat phase is comprised of 5 sub-phases: beginning of combat, command attackers, command blockers, combat resolution, and end of combat. Beginning of combat only occurs once per turn. This is the sub-phase that occurs before the game moves to the command attackers sub-phase. Command attackers. You may command the citizens you control on the island to attack by engaging them. Attacking citizens are declared 1 at a time. Attacking citizens must target a specific 11-year card unless the defending player controls no 11-year cards. At that point, the attacking citizen must target the player. Keep in mind, you cannot attack with a citizen that you played this turn unless it is eager. Players can play spell cards before blockers are commanded. The attacking player has the priority to play the first spell, and if they pass the command blocker sub-phase, the defending player may cast spells before they command blockers. Command blockers. If no attacker was commanded, skip this phase. The defending opponent has the ability to block attacks with any citizen under their control that is not engaged. Any unblocked attackers that do any damage to an 11-year card destroy that 11-year card. If the defending player controls no 11-year cards and is unable to block an attacking citizen that is targeting them, they lose the game. You must engage citizens to block with them. Combat resolution. During combat resolution, each player has the opportunity to cast spells or use abilities, with the attacking player having priority. End of combat. The subphase that occurs after the attacking player no longer can or wishes to attack with any other citizens. The attacking player may initiate another round of combat starting from the command attacker subphase as many times as they would like, as long as they have citizens that are eligible to attack. Second phase. You may play any cards you have the soul energy to play in your second phase. You may also play any card in your soul row if you have not done so yet this turn. End of turn. Your opponents have one last opportunity to play spell cards or activate abilities at the end of your turn. If you have more than 7 cards in your hand at the end of this phase on your turn, discard cards of your choosing until you have 7 or less cards in your hand. Now let's go over the zones in the game. Soul row. This is the row nearest you and contains soul cards. Whenever you put a spell or citizen card into this zone, it becomes a soul card. Your soul row is not considered to be on the island. 11-year row. This is where your 6 face-down 11-year cards go. They are not considered to be on the island. You may never control more than 6 11-year cards. The island. The primary game zone. This is where citizen cards go when cast. Cards that move from your soul row to the island via effects or abilities do not trigger enter the island effects. Static zones. Your deck, abolish zone, and limbo pile are static and can't be manipulated unless abilities or spells specifically allow you to. Now let's go over how to read a card. The card name. This is the main name of the card, used for limiting to 3 copies of each card in a deck and other spells and abilities. Soul cost. This area shows how much and what color soul energy is required to cast a card. Card type box. Shows the card's type. Card type is referenced in some spells and abilities. Something to note. Citizen cards may also contain the subtype Overlord. Only 1 copy of each Overlord citizen can be controlled by a player at any given time. Ability box. This is where you will find a citizen card's ability or a spell card's effect. 11-year cost. This is the area that shows you how much the card can be cast for when it is destroyed as an 11-year card before it enters the island. Citizen and spell cards can be cast for the 11-year cost whenever they are destroyed, regardless of whose turn it is before it enters your hand. Soul box. This box contains a soulstone symbol that shows what color or colors of soul energy a card can provide when placed in your soul row as a soul card. Your 11-year cards represent your life on Kryptik Island and can be thought of as shields. Let's go over rules that are specific to these cards. When an 11-year card you control is destroyed, you place it face up to reveal it to all players. You may use its 11-year ability or pay its 11-year cost to cast it instantly. Once the card has been mixed with your hand, you are no longer able to use its 11-year ability. When a citizen does combat damage to an 11-year card, that 11-year card is destroyed and revealed. If its controller chooses not to use its 11-year ability or pay its 11-year cost, it goes to their hand. This does not count as drawing a card. When a card is added to your 11-year row by a spell or ability, it is added to the far right side of the row from the card controller's perspective. You're only able to look at your 11-year cards if a spell or ability specifically states you can. When a spell or ability allows you to look at your 11-year cards, you must put them back in the order you found them. If an 11-year card is targeted by a citizen for an attack, but is destroyed before that citizen's combat resolution, that citizen's attack redirects to the 11-year card's owner. A player cannot lose the game by combat if they control any 11-year cards. To decide how spells and abilities resolve in Kryptik, you are to use the effect pile. Spells resolve in order of last played to first played, and each spell sees the status of all zones and cards in the game at the time of its resolution. The active player has priority to cast spells or use effects at the beginning of each phase. When the active player takes an action other than playing a card in their soul row, their opponent gains priority and has the ability to respond. Players' decks must contain between 40 and 100 cards, with no more than 3 copies of each uniquely named card. The rules for Kryptik Crucible, our 4-player format, are the same as the standard Kryptik rules, with the addition of these rules. 1. The player that goes first draws a card on their first turn. 2. When a player plays a spell, the person to their left gets to respond with a spell of their own before other players. If that player passes, the person to their left then gets a chance, and so on. Think of spell priority as going in a clockwise circle. 3. The last player standing is the winner. To learn more about specific rules and terms in Kryptik TCG, please head to kryptiktcg.com or click the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to head to our Discord and ask. We have an awesome community that's always willing to help. Peace.